Hello, and welcome to the Table and Well podcast. I'm Tennison.
And I'm Ginelle. Thank you for joining us as we discuss topics and give practical tools that help you live, grow, and be in healthy, joy-filled relationship with God, yourself, and others.
For more information and resources, or if you're looking for coaching, connection, and community, visit tableandwell.org. We hope you enjoy this podcast. We all have stories of how the family of God hasn't always been a safe or healthy place. But what if it could be? At Table and Well, we're making that vision a reality. One relationship, one family, and one leader at a time. Through practical tools that grow relational maturity, parents are restoring trust and connection with their children. Leaders are creating cultures of safety and joy in churches, schools, and missions. Students are gaining tools to increase their joy capacity, transforming their mental health and relationships for a lifetime. The ripple effect is clear. Families are becoming stronger, and communities are becoming healthier. We invite you to join us in rewriting relational stories. Your support will allow us to maintain and expand our reach and fund the development of school curriculum, marriage retreats, and ensure that scholarships are available for families and leaders who are wanting to continue their growth. Visit tableandwell.org/support to give today. Together we can build the safe, healthy family of God that we and the world most desperately need. Thank you for your support, and thank you for helping us rewrite relational stories. Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Table and Well podcast. This is episode number 21 of season 3, and we are currently in our Wisdom Keepers series, the role of elders in building relationally healthy communities. And so today we're going to be continuing our conversation with Dr. Jim Wilder. We're literally going to pick up right where we left off. And in our last episode, we just had some really great conversation around just the idea of what are elders and what do they bring to the table and why do we need elders in our community? What role do they play? And it's just fantastic conversation. And today we're going to continue again with that conversation, and we're going to dig into some other topics that are really interesting and really thought-provoking. And one in particular that we're going to spend a lot of time on today is this idea of maturity, and we're growing from being predators to gentle protectors. And when you are a true elder in your community, that's really your role, is to be a gentle protector. And what does that look like in building relationally healthy communities? So we're going to jump right into this conversation, and we hope you enjoy the rest of our podcast. We should almost become more like Jesus. If we say that was just me being human, then we should actually become more like, that should lead us to become more like Jesus in that statement.
Yeah, that's you reworded it for me very well. That's exactly what I was aiming for right there. And that is, if we want to know what it means to be really human, we look at Jesus, who did it really well. Yeah. And we look at that and we say, wow, that's so much different from where I am right now. I can't hardly imagine that being the case. Mm-hmm. But that's how little idea we have of what it means to be human. Yeah. And then all throughout Scripture, God's talking about creating a people, right? Mm-hmm. Starts out with, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. And there's Abraham and becoming the people of God, and Jesus becoming, again, creating a people. And so this idea that we're a people, like our current word for that is a community. It's mm-hmm. We're a group which collectively actually still acts a lot like how Jesus does. And the odd thing about creation is that we were created in God's image, right? Mm-hmm. Humans are the only creation that we know of, the only thing in creation that we know of, who's able to create other creatures in God's image.
Wow.
And so what an elder does is elders do not forget that our reason to exist is to be in God's image and create other people in God's image. who collectively act even more like God's image than we do just individually, because every one of us has a little piece of what it takes to be like Jesus, right?
Right.
But some of us are better at some aspects than others, but collectively, it's like, wow, you add all of that up and it starts to actually look a little bit like Jesus. And without elders to do that, most people are too tired.
Wow. Yeah.
This is what most people do. I think it's 90% of what Americans do is servicing debt of their energy and work. They're paying off debts. And so they get more jobs and they're paying off debts, and what they do that is get themselves further in debt. So people have worn themselves out paying off debts, which they probably won't ever pay off.
Right.
Elders are the people who at least have some freedom from that burden and are able to be sort of joy agents at large.
Yeah.
To walk around and say, okay, while the rest of you are too tired to enjoy yourself, you take a break. I'm going to enjoy my grandchild. I'm going to, I'm going to, enjoy who you are, and it's kind of why we would like going, at least in our fantasies, to a family dinner like Christmas or Thanksgiving or something like that, where supposedly there's some people that are just, there to enjoy us.
Yeah.
The older people, the younger ones, the babies are there to entertain us and in other ways, but who is it that just glows because everybody is just there,
Yeah.
And that's what gets missing, is that added glow. The proverb says that the grandparents are the joy of their grandchildren, and so many people say, my parents were too tired, they're working too hard, they really didn't have the time, but boy, when my grandparents came around, it was like, that's when I just knew I was special.
Yeah.
And
wow.
So that's, if we were elders, are not supposed to just do that for their own kids. They're to let everybody's children know just that they're special. It's like, you're here, you came to church, you're playing ball, you're just because you're in the neighborhood, it's like, wow, look at this, whatever's special about you.
We had a sweet woman in the neighborhood where our kids grew up who would put dress up clothes in a Rubbermaid tub on her porch for all the kids to just come and play dress up in her front yard, and just be kids. And she would, and then she'd bake cookies and bring them out. And she formed much of their memories in childhood of play.
Yeah, so true. We didn't have language then, but she absolutely was a true elder for that community.
That's how it works. Yeah. I remember Kitty one time, we had a whole house fan instead of air conditioning.
Yeah.
You'd turn it on, it blows. Well, she baked a bunch of cookies while turned on the fan, and everybody's like, when she comes out with a plate of cookies, like, oh, would you like some? Oh yeah. Even the electricians that were up on the pole, the electric company, they came down off the power pole to eat cookies. It was like, okay, this is a great moment.
I love that.
That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, that we can make elders seem like something so serious, or like such a important job with like a detailed job description. And it's really that it's reminding us of what is beautiful and what brings us joy and what invites us into one another.
Yeah. And why we're here.
And why we're here. Yeah.
And that's what a more human community is like, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's really good.
Is it my turn or your turn?
It's your question.
Okay.
Your question. I think of that one.
Yep. All right. So Life Model has been doing city events this year, and we were able to attend the one in Raleigh, and you've been speaking on gentle protectors versus predators, and also about maturity. Could you speak to that a little bit? It's such an important topic for us to understand, I think, elders, and even just our goal as people in what we're growing toward.
Yeah.
I think the interesting biological point is everybody is born predator. And so you don't have to figure out, how to take advantage of it. If you take even a preschool class and you ask them about anybody's weaknesses, they'll tell you who's the worst speller in the class. They'll tell you who runs this. We just inherently spot weaknesses. And now we're going to have two ways that we can respond to it. Either I'm going to take advantage of your weaknesses to win and to basically exploit you in some way, or I'm going to take advantage of your my knowledge of how to protect, and I'm going to go, well, there's a weakness. Let's keep you from tripping. There's a crack up ahead. There's a you can go both ways. But the thing about elders is you have to have learned a wide range of how to protect other people from their weaknesses, or and then that's more satisfying. Yes, I could take advantage of you, but I actually prefer to protect you than to take advantage of you. And so a lot of people who work themselves to the top of governments, to the top of communities, to the top of even police departments are the apex predators.
Right.
And
Wow.
when you get into that kind of community, if we're running elections, they'll say, well, I'm a benevolent predator. I won't eat you if you're on my side, and our side will eat all the other side.
Wow.
And so, but being under the protection of a predator is not going to produce a more joyful, godly community. So somehow you have to know, and this is what, the earliest of the prophets, the earliest holy man in the scripture is Job.
Okay.
And he's considered a prophet by Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, the three major religions. They all go back to him. And what he said was, basically a description of elder. I'm a protector of my community, of the widows, the orphans, anybody who needs anything. And if somebody tries to be a predator around here, I stop them. And so he had learned that this is who he is and how to act. And largely for that reason, God draws attention to him and says, have you noticed this elder who is actually the kind of person that is creating a more human community?
Wow.
And on every major, of the three major religions of at least the Western world, have that in their background as who we're supposed to be someone like Job. And so this is the protector notices the same weaknesses, but then does something to keep that from bringing harm. And they actually like doing that. So I don't know if it's too personal or not. And you can edit this out of your talk if you broadcast if you want. But I often go traveling places, and I'm assigned young and rather cute young ladies to be translators and stuff like that. And they really need a father's or a grandfather's approval. And so they're kind of looking to get my attention and approval. That's a weakness that could be exploited if I want to just make myself look good, right?
Right. Yeah.
Or I could start to say to myself, I bet they haven't been told by their parents or family, the things that are special about them in a way that they can really appreciate. And so I'm going to say, all right, how will I help them build a better relationship with their own father? What can I help them in this? So their relationships after I leave with their mother and father, they've got a new perspective on it. There's, they're closer than they were before I came. So in that way, I could go either way, but I actually find it more satisfying to go away thinking, you know what, I really improved their relationships with their parents. And over the years, I've had a chance to find out even years later, like, wow, my relationships were better after, when you came here 10 years ago or whatever else. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. And when you learn to enjoy that, the test for the kingdom of God in the book of Isaiah is that the lion will lay down with the lamb, right? Okay, predators will learn to eat straw like the ox instead of eating lambs. And so the kingdom of God, we know it's
really
here
good.
when predators are being changed into protectors. That's the key sign of transformation. And I think we've forgotten that as a church, that because we tend to say, oh, you're a predator, kick you out of here.
Right. Yeah.
We should be able to say, you're a predator. Oh, you've come to the right place, because you're not going to like being a predator after you've been around here for a while. We're going to teach you a better way. Elders have to know how to do that well enough that they can spot a predator and say, we're going to bring you in. We're not going to let you eat any lambs around here. And we're not going to pretend that you're not a predator just because you can preach nice or whatever else you do. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
But we will teach you what it means to be a protector.
Yeah.
While we keep a close eye on you, because we don't want to sacrifice any lambs while we're going through the learning process.
Right.
Right.
I remember when we were at the event and you started speaking on that, and even what you're saying right now, it's like we don't hear that anywhere. Like that growth track of coming from a predator to a gentle protector. And I think if that message was embraced and preached and taught and even talked about more
And modeled.
100% modeled, and then invited into, like you just talked about. I mean, I can't even imagine what our communities and our families and the family of God would look like if that was truly our MO, if that's how we operated, to where our goal is not to make you the best preacher or the slickest worship leader or the the biggest and fastest evangelist. It's actually to take you from predator to gentle protector.
Yeah, it's actually happening to a slightly surprising degree within the Catholic Church, because of the number of priests that have been apprehended as predators.
Yes.
That the Catholic seminary actually invites me in to teach every class that they are predators, and here's how you go about becoming a protector, because they intend to change all their clergy around by saying, here's, we've been saying for years you shouldn't,
right?
But we've not told anybody how you go from being a predator to being a protector. It's just like, well, if you could get spiritual enough, you'd stop being a predator.
Right.
No, you'll always know how to be a predator. That you can't spiritualize.
Your tools
now
are
you have
different.
spiritual tools to be a predator.
Right. No, it won't work. You can fast and do whatever else you want. It's not going away. It's wired in. But you can learn that it's a whole lot more satisfying to build joy and be a protector. And I just wish I could show you the faces of each class when we go through that. It's like, wow, that just makes so much sense. I've tried all my life to be so holy as to not think a predatory thought, and I never would quit. But to say, oh, yeah, I could do that, but instead of eating lambs, I would rather do this. Wow. It's so much fun to watch young people learning this. And again, like you say, I don't hear it usually, and it wasn't in any of the seminary I went to.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting, even going back to the conversation about glory and honor. And really what we're talking about here is our ability to identify other people's weaknesses, and how am I going to use that? Am I going to use that to build my glory and honor, or am I going to build yours, or build this community and this community's? And I think when it's not that we notice the weakness, it's that, what are we going to do about that? And including in ourselves, right? I think even in that.
Anyone who self-attacks will end up attacking other people, because you can't really protect other people better than you want to protect yourself. So, and there is a form of Protestant pietism as well as Catholic pietism that says that the solution to becoming more spiritual is to attack yourself in every way you can, so you don't become prideful. You don't, basically don't develop an identity is what it ends up happening, as opposed to saying I'm becoming a person of glory and honor. But it's not because of my own doing. It's because that's what I was created to be.
Right. Or your identity becomes, I'm a sinner, or we're all sinners, and we're filthy,
And
we're
nothing.
filthy rags, we're nothing, we're not worthy of this. We should, then it's become, like you said, that self-deprecating thing, as if that's holy and that's going to keep us holy. And
it's sort of low joy.
Yeah, it is just a little bit, just a little low joy. Yeah.
Well, I think that's it. So, because we teach a lot of this in our collabs, and in teaching that, we often bring people just back to themselves. Like, you are somebody who's worthy of being with no matter what. But first, you actually need to do that with you.
Yeah.
Like that gladness to be with you and rebuilding that. And we often encounter that theology around, but I'm nothing. I'm, whatever. They've degraded themselves so low, their own status internally. They might be working really hard out in the world to have a high status from everyone else, but internal status is no one and nothing. And we can't live in his glory and honor with that view.
No, we certainly can't.
And we can't be.
The two of them are related. If I tear myself down internally, I almost can't resist building myself up externally. So it's just creates a vacuum something's going to move into.
Wow.
And so you're quite right. We have to start by we have to know what we need first, right? Infant maturity. And we need glory and honor. We need it to be given to us, not to be earned by us.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we've talked about that in a different way too. I think you've mentioned it too. We talk about this fact of entitlement, of like what we're entitled to, and that word can be so. It's been, again, what we've done with that word has turned it into this horrible thing. And there are some, obviously, there's entitled people that were like, okay, wait a minute. But at the end of the day, it's really about we're entitled to, we deserve love and belonging. We're entitled to this because we are human, because we are here, and
we were created.
The way I would say that, Tennison, is that it's the differential entitlement. I am more entitled than you are. That's toxic. It's we are all entitled. That is
gotcha.
That is where we're all headed.
Yeah.
When I start to be more entitled than you, now different.
Or entitled to things that you're not entitled to.
That's a beast that will eat your lunch right there.
Wow. Yeah. So what'd you call that? Indifferent?
Differential entitlement, that I find myself more entitled than you are.
Okay.
That's a bad one right there. That's a poisonous little plant. You
don't
Writing that down.
It'll be on our podcast. You can listen later.
I know, but I want the notes.
Who wants to listen past to the whole thing again just to find that one spot?
That one little spot.
Fortunately, it's ×2. You can scan through and listen to someone talk very fast, but who wants to?
Right.
That's why I listen to books. Yeah. That's really good. Which is really, really good. So, I know a lot of your work has been in the church, but a lot of your work is also, with Christians, but a lot is also outside and with communities and building that. And so I'm curious, this idea of how can elders serve as spiritual parents? Because that's another big thing that we talk about and that you've talked about as spiritual parents.
But that's even lingo in the church of spiritual parents.
And so what does that look like in both the large church setting, maybe in small families or groups, environments? What would be one of the most, as elders are growing in that, what would be one of the most important relational skills that they could, that they should have?
Let me start out by saying that elders basically grow 3 communities, and they try to pull those 3 communities together. The first community is your own family. And so when Paul's talking about elders, it says, if they're not growing their own family well, don't try to consider this. It's not like think they're wicked.
Right.
But, these people are going to have their hands full trying to deal with their own family. How can you bring a bigger load on them? There'll be no joy in it. So you're measuring what's got joy in it. So if their family's running pretty well, they've got some joy to spare. But if you're raising your children in a community, you'll be meeting all of your children's friends. And so you get to know this one's coming from a home where they're having this problem. And so you say, well, when he comes over, we're going to be kind to him. We're going to teach him how to share toys with other people, or, we know he gets kind of loses his temper when he's out there playing softball or baseball or something like that. So you're going to help. And so now you develop a community family that's separate from your own, but it involves all of your little children, friends, and the people around, and the ones that don't seem to have anybody to play with. See, okay, there, let's find a way to include them in here. So it's a sort of natural growth. You've got your family, but then as a neighborhood, I would call it neighborhood family. We used to have neighborhoods. It's how this whole thing works. And so within that neighborhood, you kind of become recognized as, it's like my other parents, I like to go over to so-and-so's house, and then this happens again naturally. And you like these two to work together. And then there's a church family, a spiritual family, people who come in that, weren't related for you to begin with, but because God likes them and brought them into the family, we develop that same kind of sense. And when you begin to tend all three of those and bring them together, the main characteristic that you're building is, oddly enough, the idea that we can actually be quiet together.
You've been listening to the Table and Well podcast. New episodes stream every Tuesday. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review to let us know. Also, subscribe on your favorite listening platform to stay up to date on all things Table and Well. To learn more, start your journey, or get information on how Table and Well can help develop your community, family, or teams to be relationally healthy and authentically connected, please go to tableandwell.org/collab to schedule an interest call, or you can email us directly at known@tableandwell.org.